Good afternoon. It's almost 1 o'clock. We will still wait a bit, maybe a minute, for the people who still would like to join. To start the second part of our event today, we have started discussing the issue of young and academic entrepreneurship from the point of view of policymakers. So we met in the morning with the regional politicians from the Baltic Sea region. And now in the second part, we are changing the perspective to the practitioners and experts' point of view. So I'm very happy to welcome in our expert panel 3 very acknowledged and working since many years in the area that we are mentioning and discussing today, experts, Mr. Tomasz Szymczak, Chief Executive Officer at Gdańsk Business and Technology Incubator Starter, Mr. Pirko Konsa, the Chief Executive Officer at Modern Mobility from Estonia, and Mr. Meiling, Project Manager and International Startup Advisor at Potsdam Transfer at the University of Potsdam's Transfer and Startup Service. It's a great pleasure to meet you all. We will soon make you all co-hosts, so you will be able to share your screen whenever you wish. And we will start as follows. I will ask each of our experts to share the presentation, to talk about his perspective, experience, and insights in the academic entrepreneurship in each region or country they represent. And all participants will be able to ask questions on chat. So whenever you have a question, please write us on chat and we will pose the question to our speakers. And also at the end, in our Q&A session, you will be able to ask the questions also not via chat, but personally. You can then please submit or hold your hand up and you will be able to comment on what was talked about or ask the question. It's 2 minutes after 12, so I guess we can start. So Mr. Tomasz Szymczak, please take the floor and start our discussion. Thank you.
I'm ready, apart from the thing that something happened with my camera, as you see, which is pretty strange. But hopefully I delivered my presentation. So I know that some of you are pretty aware of what we are doing in Starter, and we talked with Till, for example, about Potsdam Accelerator and our activities some time ago. So if you could put my presentation.
Okay, so we can then share the screen. Yes,
okay,
so just
share the screen. Yes, and I will just move quickly through our latest activities. Also, what we regarding our progress through the pandemic in time as well, which was pretty difficult, but hopefully overall speaking, not tragic, I would say.
Okay, so we will start sharing. Just please let us know whenever we will need to change the slides, and we will be able to see it in a very moment. Maybe in the time we will share your presentation. I can also I can maybe introduce you with some additional words. So Tomasz has the background actually both from university and the company. So he's the person that I think is the best possible expert to have when we talk about academic entrepreneurship and the necessary facilities or programs that academic entrepreneurship could be supported from the regions, but also from other entities. And he is experienced manager of different economic entities in the field of transport, services, and the educational market. And from June 2017, the president and the CEO of Gdańsk Entrepreneurial Foundation Starter Incubator, also an academic teacher and lecturer in the field of transport, economics, logistics, transatlantic economic relations, and innovation policy. So quite broad field of expertise. But the presentation is ready, so I give the floor to you.
If you could, because there is another problem with moving the slide. So if you could go to the other one and just a quick explanation what Starter is doing. As you see, we are of course regarding the Tri-City or regarding the whole Pomerania region or Pomorskie region, we are pretty unique in the way that we are not exactly academic comparing to our friends from Potsdam, for example. But we cover more than Tri-City area, especially for the young companies. We started in 2005, and then in this building in 2011. So already 10 years ago. The beginning was of course covering the Polish young workforce, Polish technological. Young people who wanted to establish either startups or just technological small and medium enterprises. So we offer incubation and also pre-acceleration programs, because we are more incubator than accelerator by definition. And of course, we try to be pretty international. It's difficult to compare to our Scandinavian neighbors or Germany. But we host several Indian companies, for example. We have pretty strong workforce, very, I would say, dedicated, very hardworking from Ukraine. And we have a growing number of Belarusian technological companies which are coming over to us because what's happening now in Belarus, when the dictator started to dissolve this famous technological park around Minsk, because the director of this park took part in the election against him. So these people are just running away from the country, and we would like to be together with the city of Gdańsk, one of the hosts of this very developed, very cooperative technological forces. So we do have some partnerships, some I would say openness for especially Eastern, businesses, Eastern European businesses, especially Ukrainians and Belarusians, but also for some other companies from Scandinavia as co-workers and companies, making some special arrangements for bigger companies from more developed market. We offer for special prices slightly lower than on the market around. We offer offices 25 square meters, which is one room, or times 2, 50 meters, maximum 2 rooms for the companies less than 3 years old from the moment of their establishment and registration. So in this respect, we are a real incubator, right? We have more than 15,000 of people who use our networking facilities, who use our newsletter. So this was the kind of the nesting place for many of already developed companies and scale-ups. So, and of course, our other aim, apart from technology development, is promote entrepreneurship education. We teach pupils, teachers, but also students how to behave in market economy and how to create a company, how to develop it. This is more or less 2 pillars of our activities. One is technology development, helping people in this, assisting people in this, and then more kind of mission statement, which is teaching young people and teachers as well how they should teach pupils and students real market economy and open economy entrepreneurship. If I may have another slide. you will have our whole bench of services, which are pretty obvious for such an organization, which is entrepreneurial education on this mission part of what we do, skills practice, is talent spotting, because every region, that's not only obvious for Baltic Sea region, but also for broader Europe and for the global, phenomena that every region, every big city, every metropolis is looking for the talent, for talented people. We are pretty in a lucky position, especially regarding Ukrainians and Belarusians, because we have similar culture, and they come over to us and work. So we try to explore this, historical, let's say, development, to attract this talent from over here, not only to Gdańsk, even not only to Poland, but to European Union and to the Schengen area. We talk to them and we explain that you not only land in Gdańsk or Tri-City area, pretty open, pretty liberal harbor city, but you have also the whole common European Union market open to you, because this is a Schengen area, this is European Union, 4 freedoms, right? So for these Easterners, it's pretty interesting that when they listen to 4 freedoms, say, okay, this is the nice place to develop their business. So talent spotting is very important, but of course, many places, especially like Berlin, which is a powerhouse, of course, do the same. But we have some, some, I would say, minor successes comparing to bigger metropolis. But this is also a success, I would say, track. And building, of course, competence building and networking. We organize conferences. I will tell you in a moment about details. The startup ecosystem, we have a department regarding helping, assisting young people through the legal procedure, how to establish the startups. And of course, we have group of mentors who are specifically technologically driven, right? This is not a legal part of establishing the company, but how to figure out the best kind of, island in which you would like to land, regarding whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's technology related to logistics, whether it's technology related to medicine, or some many different things, right? And of course, business development. We are the members, for example, the founding members of newly created Polish Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce. Why? Because this is my own experience from the past. I was a member of one of the supervisor board based in Luxembourg, the company based in Luxembourg. And we know that after Brexit, a lot of private equity funds and VCs moved from London to Luxembourg, and Luxembourg became the money hub, so to say, right? So we already sent 6 companies there to pitch for a bigger amount of money, let's say, for around COD for them, which would be difficult to find such amount of money, like 1, 2, 4 million euros, right? On the Polish market, on the Polish VC or private equity market, just we send them as European Union, companies to Luxembourg to pitch there. So this is also pretty successful endeavor, how we try to internationalize our structure. And then may I have another slide, the next one? This is in essence what we do. Not only Polish market, not only European market, but also a global scene overseas as well. And then on the next slide, you will see our particular ideas. We have just finished. This was an acceleration program, because it just finished, closed Poland Prize. That was the soft lending program for 18 startups, 3 batches of 6 startups, altogether 18. We hosted for a year and a half in Gdańsk, with the soft lending money provided by the European Union through our national agency for entrepreneurship development. And they got 50,000 euro, around 50,000 euro of soft lending money, and they established the legal entity here in Gdańsk, and then proceeded through the mentoring program for around 5 or 6 months. Some of them are still in Poland. Very interesting is a company created by our colleague from Pakistan, who came for Poland Prize to us, and then went to Abu Dhabi in United Arab Emirates, spent a year there because of the pandemic, and then came back to us with his very interesting concept of very innovative car rental companies. This is called the company is called Final Rentals, and Amar is just headquartered his company here at our building in Gdańsk. So this is already finished. Of course, we have some interesting kind of ideas learned on this project. TechSeed.me is another pre-acceleration program, which is running constantly. This is another edition of this program. The next is InfoShare, which is the biggest technological conference in the whole Central and Eastern Europe, not only in Poland, but the whole Central and Eastern European region. In which during this conference we are the partners. We are the major partner of InfoShare organizers, InfoShare Foundation, and we are responsible for the startup context already for the 6 times, I would say. The last edition, 2020, was of course online, but this edition in September probably will be at least hybrid. Hopefully, it will be fully physical, let's say, in Gdańsk. And then, of course, the competition is awarded. Like the award is founded by the city of Gdańsk. The main prize, the number 1, is 20,000 euro. One-step service. It's a lesson learned from Poland prize. So we do have the one-stop shop here to welcome foreign startups. Some of them even from Germany, established particularly by young people of Polish origin who spent 20-25 years of their life in Germany, knowing the culture, knowing the Western marketing skills, let's say, in technology, of course, and come over here also to develop business. Jump Your Business. It's a practical how to behave, how to run the business. And the startup Hansa, our recent idea together, because this is private-public partnership. We are a public entity, and then we invited several private technological companies to recreate the idea of Hansa, right? Because Gdańsk together with Hamburg, with Rostock, with Antwerp, with some other places, is a Hansastadt, used to be a Hansastadt, right? So we now created the startup Hansa to develop, to share knowledge with some other partners, which is broader because we have even American partners, which are no Hamburg cities, but this is how to kind of link, technologically oriented people all together, taking ideas from the history, from how we positively cooperated in trade and in developments in historical times of Hansa. So this is also, we got support from our members of the European Parliament. Janusz Lewandowski, who is former European Commissioner for Budget and Financial Affairs, signed a letter, opening letter, right, to invite some foreign partners also for this initiative. So this is also in the way how to internationalize our activities, our development. The next slide, briefly, I will. Of course, we are the harbor region, right? 2 ports, meaning Gdańsk and Gdynia. Gdańsk is already the biggest container port in the Baltic Sea, just bypassing St. Petersburg. So pretty good development. That's why you will see on the next slide. That's why we are the leaders. We as Starter, we are the leaders of first Pomeranian Smart Specialization, which is technology related to offshore energy, ports, logistics, transport industries. These are not industries, but technologies related to offshore ports and logistics, right? In Gdańsk is in a pretty Pomorskie region is a pretty, positive position and development, because we are the only region in Poland, the only land in German meaning, right, in Poland, already having more than 50% of energy produced by the renewable sources, right? Exactly, the exact number is 52%. So we are the leaders in manufacturing energy out of renewable sources, and offshore wind energy will even develop that. we are just at the beginning of developing, wind turbines and putting them into the Baltics. They are already, the 4 farms are already located on the around 25 kilometers from the Baltic coast, Baltic Sea coast, and then they will be developed in the next 25 years, right? So this will also put Pomerania region in front of this Green Deal and green development, right? Green LNG development, which is very positive, not only within Poland but also regarding the rest of the Central and Eastern Europe. So this is what we do regarding the smart specializations. This was not at the beginning. That was not simple, because you can imagine that offshore is of course technologically oriented, but ports, logistics, transport are very traditional businesses. Trade unions with all this, bumpy rides, I would say, right? And then to introduce technology into this years was not difficult. So our first meetings with groups of logistics and ports managers were pretty tough, right? They are very traditional. But now, after close to 3 years of this program is sponsored, by the way, by the Marshal's Office, and it looks really positive, right? We invited, for example, the managers from Hamburg, Port of Hamburg, just to show us up, right, as teachers, as kind of mentors, as gurus, right? Because we can say that Hamburg Port is a guru regarding Central and Eastern Europe, right? So how to tell us, how to develop technological solutions, logistics, in harbor management. So this is also pretty good cooperation. And then, if I may have a last one, the related programs to smart specialization. Very interesting project run both in Polish, Kobiety też budują statki, and in English, Women Build Ships Too. Women in maritime industry, which is pretty traditional industry. There are a growing number of women there, both in shipyards, in manufacturing ships, in Navy, military, service, also in logistics and transport in general, very general. It's not only building ships, but also in the whole maritime industry. The growing number of women is okay, but of course it started from the very minor numbers. So this is still the development, and very, I would say, interesting. Even when we discussed this project with our Scandinavian friends, they were pretty kind of inspired that, okay, we are doing this very, very well. So South Baltic Bridge, which is about to end, this is the project of waste micromanagement for pupils, for students, for schools. So pretty interesting also we know that in average, Scandinavian countries or Germany are pretty high regarding the percentage of closed circle, waste management. We are still the long term is okay, but we still have to catch up. And then the very last thing is our CTEC conference, which is kind of a daughter of first smart specialization, which is international conference. We have already 5 editions. This year was an online one in May, in April, excuse me, the 5th edition, which was online only. But this is the idea is, of course, devoted to technologies, to maritime technologies, more and more also to offshore energy. A very international always. We hosted for example, the offshore cluster from Bornholm this year. Also, we try to step out of the Baltic Sea region. We invited British ports. We invited, for example, Port of Ostende, which is on the Atlantic coast. So trying to learn from colleagues from other regions and to compare to our situation. So this is our activity. We have a lot of students here. At the end of my presentation, I can tell you that there are scientific, different scientific circles at the different academic institutions here in Gdańsk, whether it's Technological University, whether it's University of Gdańsk. I am personally a member of the board of trustees of the University of Gdańsk, and this just started. The term of office just started. and the biggest, the biggest research circles always come over startup technology, technological development, scale ups, and all this stuff. So in general, we started from the pretty difficult position comparing to our Western colleagues, but the development, the progress, I would say, is of course long term, but it's pretty positive. So in this, I can conclude that all the students, all the young people who would like to reach out to this, more developed, more experienced technological companies, they can find easily the mentoring services, the assistance from the place called Starter. So this is, of course, we were founded by City of Gdańsk, but now we are not only Gdańsk, not only Tri-City, not only Pomerania, but also trying to reach out further away. So this is how we developed through this last 16 years of our existence. So this is all from our side. I hope you have pretty good now understanding what we are doing, and of course we are open for any questions at the end or exchange of views. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tomasz. I would now, because I cannot see any questions in the chat for the moment, so we will move to the next speaker, Mr. Pirko Konsa, who has a long history of contributing to development of Estonian startup ecosystem by working as head of enterprise policy division in Ministry of Economic Affairs and CEO of Tallinn Science Park Technopole and Estonian Development Fund. And currently he is a mentor and entrepreneur building next generation mobility services based on autonomous vehicles. Mr. Pirko Konsa will give us today a presentation on the Estonian startup ecosystem, how it has developed and what's next. So Pirko, the floor is yours. Thank you for accepting our invitation. It's great to have you today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I tried to give you a short overview, and I'm really happy to answer any questions also. Estonian startup ecosystem, I think, has been kind of knowledgeably developed last 20 years. And it started by establishing 2 science parks and incubators in late 90s and or in early 2000, and also establishment of Estonian Development Fund in 2006. We can say that this is not something what kind of government did alone, or it has been a very strong collaboration where academia, private sector, and public sector have had a kind of their own role. But what has been this kind of aim of our ecosystem is that we wanted to achieve the number of active startups around 1,000 who are operating in Estonia, and there is clear that this kind of goal, it is not only about having one very good program, but it is about creating environment, also enhancing collaboration. And one thing what is very important is, of course, access to funding. But on the other hand, the question is not only about the money itself, but also the network, what comes with the investment. So we call it smart money. And this is, I think, very important to get smart money investing into the startups, or at least looking on the startups. That, on the other hand, means that your kind of level of the startups has to be quite strong, so that you can make private investors interested into the of Estonian startups. So okay. at the moment, we can say that our startup sector is basically booming, and it has a quite strong influence also to our labor market, meaning that it is hiring almost all available talent, and we have also made many steps in towards to attract more foreign talent to relocate to Estonia to cover the deficit of the talent what we have. But during this last 13 years, I would say the impact has been very important if we think of the number of jobs. To remind you that the total population of Estonia is 1.3 million. So 6,000 very well paid jobs in tech industry. This is quite a big number. And it is also good to see that how actually for a government or a public sector investing into the tech, actually the return on investment from the point of tax revenues is already positive. So we gain annually more from taxes generated by startups than public sector invests into the improving the ecosystem. And for nowadays, the number of revenue generated by startups is also growing quite rapidly, and last few years have been quite successful also raising capital. And for typical to Eastern Europe, it is clear that we don't have so much risk-averse capital suitable for startups in Estonia. So we always have been making a lot of efforts to make for foreign investors or foreign VCs the investment here as suitable as possible. So at the moment, 90% of the funds invested are coming from foreign investors. So just to remind what is the startup, that the startup is not any technology company, but it is very important to understand that it is also about business model and the scalability of business model. And the scalability means that it has to have a global growth potential. So the technology company, which is not very ambitious, we don't consider them as startups. About investments a little bit more, I think the key years when things started to happen actually are this kind of 2007, 2008. And this is a year when a company called Skype kind of started to bloom in Estonia, and it also generated kind of a first generation of Estonian origin kind of startup investors or technology investors who were early employees of the Skype, because this gave them a huge kind of experience how to build the company and also a very good network towards Europe and Silicon Valley. After that, year by year, actually, the numbers have been growing, and this has started to kind of self-generate new businesses. And if we talk about 10 or around 10 deals a day 10 years ago, now last years have been really lively when we have had investments up to 75 companies who we could consider as startups. What we are really proud of, and I think it is also, if we think then, as I mentioned, the success story of Skype, there are 7 unicorns. That means companies who have reached the valuation over the $1 billion have originated from Estonia. And maybe again to stress to the point of this kind of building an ecosystem and understanding that how important are these kind of relations and getting the experience, then basically we can say that after Skype, Wise is or TransferWise is established one of the first employees of Skype. The Bolt founders have been working in early days in Skype. The same goes Pipedrive and also Moniz, which is has employees from the Skype or Verif. So we can say that this kind of the changes in ecosystem actually happened after the story of the Skype. And if we talk about our ecosystem, then this is it would take to tell of every organization quite a long to cover all the area. But I think most of the important is to understand that we try to cover all the phases of the startups are going through. That there are programs, especially if we think of where the role of academia and universities is very important, is how to create a startup mindset, and there is a role of universities is very important, that and their ability actually to collaborate with private sector. I can mention also that at the moment I'm situated in Tartu, in campus of Tartu University. And for example, in this building, there are located both private companies, there are academia, there is IT and business school at the same building mixed. That means there is a lot of kind of potential to create this kind of accidental collaborations or serendipity to happen. And we have a lot of events and this kind of mentoring programs for early startups, and also we can tell that providing this kind of premises and co-working communities, this is not organized by public sector. There is of course some of them, and they are supported partly by public sector, but some of the private investors have decided kind of being interested to be close to startups. They have created this kind of special working environments where they can collaborate, and they are managed privately. And last but not least, I think if we talk about also funding part, then it's very important that in 2013 Estonian Business Angel Network was established, and this also is very kind of giving a strong support educating investors. And I think this is also, we need to understand that it is as crucial as educating startups is to educate investors. To understand how to create investment strategies, how to give enough freedom for startups to during the difficult times, and how to choose what kind of valuations and shares to take, and so on and so on. Public sector has created different co-investment facilities, and I think the latest maybe development what has happened is that actually University of Tartu has their own venture investment facility created this spring, and also Tallinn Technical University is in the process of creating their own investment arm. So that means that also this kind of early stage, let's call them deep tech companies, which are not maybe this kind of just IT, but more complicated technologies, maybe where time to market is longer. are also having the possibility to get this kind of early stage investments to protect their intellectual property and so on. So this is really very quickly covering the ecosystem. The ecosystem is quite diverse, and as I mentioned, there are many people who are having different roles, private. I think very important is that the community of successful startup founders, they very actively giving back to society. And for example, they just launched a campaign, and they are opening a new IT school, which is basically managed by private company in collaboration with public sector. So there are many these kind of activities where ecosystem is kind of trying to regenerate new successful stories, and there is a lot of this kind of free of charge support also from businesses or founders. So maybe to very shortly cover also this kind of maybe one important part. As I mentioned, we are short in talent, so we have created a program called Startup Visa. And the idea is that if there is a talented person who has a great idea, and there is a program who is ready to accept them into Estonia, then the Estonia can issue the visa for founders. Or if there are very talented employees who the startup wants to hire, then they are also considered. The application process is quite lean, but there is, as I mentioned, there is a committee who consists of representatives of ecosystem who are evaluating every application. So there is not kind of mechanical acceptance criteria, but still there is kind of a human touch always to understand that is the company or are the people really creating the value, or case by case considered. And of course, this is mostly interesting to the countries where who need to have a visa to operate in Europe. So we have a lot of founders from Russia, Iran, Turkey, India, and of course a lot of hirings from the same countries. And I think again we have to say that it's very important that also, even no difference what is it, a conservative or a liberal government, actually the public sector has always trying to be in a very open and good dialogue with the private sector and startup community to kind of find solutions. So maybe this is shortly all, and you can find a lot of information about Estonian startup ecosystem from the. We have a special program actually from the government side called Startup Estonia, what I was kind of happy to initiate years ago. And they have different podcasts. They have also different materials about the ecosystem, and also events. So if you are interested, you are very welcome to visit them, or of course you can contact me also on these topics. So this was maybe this kind of very quick overview, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Pirko. For now, there are no questions on the chat, so I think we will discuss or answer some other questions in the Q&A session at the end. So I guess we will move to the third presentation of Till Meiling, who is a project manager and an international startup advisor at Potsdam Transfer. the University of Potsdam Transfer and Startup Service. In his role, and he's responsible for the funding, application, and execution of the Startup Services Internationalization project. Till also has other background because before joining the Potsdam Transfer, he completed his doctorate in physical chemistry at the University of Potsdam and work on development of sustainable nanoparticles, so also very innovative field. And still is a scientist at heart and now helps academics from all over the world to develop their ideas into innovative business models and to establish their startups in the state of Brandenburg. So welcome very warmly, Till. And we will be happy to hear a presentation of sciencepreneurship in Potsdam, over 25 years of experience and success in supporting academic startups. So the field is, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for the nice introduction. Let me just
A nice speaker, so we have no problem with nice introducing you.
Thank you. Yeah, and today I want to give you a short introduction in how we do startup support here at the University of Potsdam and how we further want to develop our startup support through our internationalization project. But let me start with a short history about the startup service at the University of Potsdam. The University of Potsdam was formed in 1991 by the amalgamation of several existing colleges from the GDR. And currently the university is the largest university in the state of Brandenburg and the fourth largest university in the metropolitan region of Berlin-Brandenburg with over 22,000 students. Right from the start in 1991, first project for technology transfer and startup support were established. And in 2004, the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation was funded, further consolidating and strengthening the initiatives for entrepreneurship here at the university. Also in 2008, we founded an incubator for science-related startups called Go In cooperation with the city and the state of Potsdam and the state of Brandenburg. And in 2020, we started our internationalization of the startup project. It is a project Potsdam International Transfer Collaboration Hub. Potsdam Transfer has 4 cornerstones: the transfer service, which is focusing on the consultation regarding intellectual property rights, technology scouting, and the support in identification of financing possibilities for R&D transfer projects with the industry. We have the startup service I will tell more about in my following slides. We also have the Innovative University, which is focusing on joint labs with the industry, the digitalization of the education, and especially the social transfer of science, which is often forgotten. And the last cornerstone is our further education program, where we have MBA programs and an entrepreneurial postgraduate education to further enhance the entrepreneurial spirit for our students after they leave the university. The key facts about our startup service: we are currently the 3rd best startup service in Germany. We have over 300 startups in the last 10 years, and currently we have 58 startup projects in our pipeline, and this year we will reach over 30 startups. This is further enhanced by our 15 international startups projects we are currently having and still rising. We have 11 exist teams, which is a federal startup grant I will tell more about later on. And we have also 24 startups in our Media Tech Hub Accelerator, which is a cooperation between the university, Axel Springer and Porsche APX, and the state of Brandenburg. We think the reasons for our success is that we have a highly developed startup ecosystem with diverse and experienced stakeholders here at Potsdam, not only from the business side, like the Center of Commerce or the development agency in Brandenburg, but also a lot of research facilities and institutes from the Max Planck Society and the Fraunhofer Society, to name just a few. We face favorable conditions. We have continuous funding and political support, which is quite important because it allows our employees to work for the startup service in full time. Thereby, they are able to focus on our specific target groups and their specific needs, which is mostly academics and students and also scientists. And also over the years, we developed an agile and adaptable system. We walk at the founder's pace. And our system is based on an established process chain, which starts with awareness like startup basics or startup story night or startup streaming night due to Corona, and also one of our development workshops, PLX. We then offer consultation and coaching in development centers, pitch trainings, one-on-one sessions, and also speed matching sessions where we try to help our founders to find team members so they can fill gaps they're still missing for their startup. We also advise on funding and support, like the Exist Business Startup Grant, procurement of infrastructure like office space, shared working space, or something simple like a PO box for the startup, and also how to apply for our Media Tech Hub Accelerator later on. We try to strengthen further the alumni relations with a job portal, with financing options through our transfer service for our research and development projects for our startups, and through events with industry so that we match the local economy with our startups. Exist is one of the biggest supports for startups here in Germany. It's a federal funding by the German Ministry of Economics and Affairs and Energy for university business startups. The Exist Business Grant is up to 150,000 euros for 1 year for 3 people who want to further develop their startup and their business plan. The Exist Transfer Research, which is at least 250,000 euros for materials and apparatus, plus the living expenses for 4 founders for up to 18 months, is more aiming for high-risk involved startups based on academic science. And also the third cornerstone for Exist is the Exist Potentials Project, which aims for German universities to further help them to improve their startup services and their network, and this is where our internationalization project is financed by. Our international startup service has 3 cornerstones. We try to increase our international partnerships through cross-national networks and with scientific institutions and business partners. We have an entrepreneurship education field where we try to develop new ways to bring entrepreneurship education to our target audience by remote and collaborative ways. And of course, we have the international startup support, which offers continuous consultancy and onboarding for international founders. In our international partnership, we create joint workshops with our partners to support each other and our programs, because we think in a mutual exchange will always help to increase both startup systems. We also offer staff training through facilitator trainings, co-creation workshops, and train-the-trainer formats. And we want to develop an international ecosystem where we can provide access to resources, network, and funding opportunities and facilities from our side and from our partners' side to give the best starting conditions for our startups. Currently, we're focusing on the Baltic Sea region and the Eastern Europe, but we're confident that over the next few years, we can expand through the whole European economic community and maybe later on also with selected partners worldwide. Our entrepreneurship education focuses on the 3 cornerstones of the entrepreneurial mindset: creativity, business skills, and entrepreneurial thinking, through different workshops, like our last workshop together with the University of Maribor in Slovenia. And the aim is to promote international startup teams and qualified people with innovative ideas to become successful entrepreneurs, which is really important for academics. And one of our beacons for open entrepreneurship education is our Potsdam Entrepreneurship Experience Lab. It's a 4-day workshop where interdisciplinary teams from science learn to develop innovative ideas into a customer-oriented business model. We have an international startup and innovation workshop for the commercialization of these application-oriented research results. It's held twice a year, once in Potsdam or from Potsdam in August, and once at the partner's location. Last year, we had our first full digital PLX with over 43 participants from 12 countries and over 15 fields of expertise. And we had the farthest reach was Mongolia and South Africa. We hope that this year we can increase our reach much more. This workshop is accompanied by professional design thinking coaches from the HBED school here in Potsdam. We have on-site training for PLX coaches for our partners, so our partners can adopt this system to their ecosystem and can do these workshops on their own. And also we provide additional working materials through our digital open entrepreneurship networks like canvases or playbooks. And last but not least, we have the international startup support. If an international founder decides to start the company in Germany, we can provide our proven startup support for the acquisition of financing and funding, and also for the development of the business idea. We can enable access to infrastructure, the regional economy, and the existing networks like co-founders or other investors. We also offer professional onboarding and integration for also the founders and their family members. And founders can get access to Europe's largest market and the European single market as a whole, because our goal is a successful establishment of international founders and their long-term commitment in the Berlin-Brandenburg metropolitan region. I thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I can contact me at any time through my email, meiling@uni-potsdam.de, or you can follow us on LinkedIn if you want to keep up with upcoming workshops and so on. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. All the presentation will be later available also on the website, so you will have the contact details to our speakers, and I'm sure that if there are some possibility of closer cooperation or some contacts or questions, you can reach them. I cannot for now see any questions on the chat. I strongly recommend you to ask and use the opportunity to comment on what was said or ask the question to our experts. But I will maybe then start this round of questions by asking you about the main challenges that you face in your work. You all show many successes, and you also pointed out the factors behind the successes. So the also well-developed ecosystem in which your organization work, this connection networks to different type of institutions. All of you mentioned the role of the public sector also in financing and support, but also the contacts to university research centers, but also the business world. What is the most challenging in developing your activities, educating and giving this impulse of students or young people to start up their companies? And also, if you monitor the fate of these companies for a longer time, so if you still stay in touch with the startups in the later stage and monitor how successful they are. So maybe first I will start with maybe Tomasz, like we will refer to the order that we followed in this session. So please, Tomasz.
I would say that the main challenge which we encounter for I'm already more than 4 years here, and this is more or less the same, not to step too much into the private sector, right? Because we are the public entity and we should monitor, we should help, we should assist in these things which are not too much developed by the private sector. So of course, encouraging private sector to do more in regards to kind of social engagement and business engagement, right? But of course, because we can never compete with private sector, so we just start some processes, try to begin them, and then if we have some examples of our programs which were pretty well developed, and then they were took over by some other private entities, right? Even supporting the business. So this is important to feel your role, the proper feeling of your role, right? Because and then in this role you should feel the most kind of efficient, right? If you are the most efficient, you will be the best, and you should continue. If there is a way that these solutions or this, kind of ideas can be monetized properly, you can move them into the private sector, which is, bumpy ride, but of course we try to do it. So this is interesting. This is one thing, and the other one I would say regarding our entity, our company, we call it company, but this is a foundation, right? Legally speaking, is to find a way, because we are enough matured, I would say, to take part in Horizon Europe programs. We were invited several times, but we kind of evaluated our experience that it was not time, a year ago or 2 years ago. But now I think we are enough capable to take part in some as entity, dealing with business and technological solutions, to be the partner, the minor partner, of course, not the leading one, in projects in which we are pretty good regarding, for example, digital Europe, blue economy in general, right? So this is what we are looking for, and we are checking possible partnerships regarding the funds provided by Horizon Europe. So this is kind of another higher step of maturity for us. So, and the other one I would say is, of course, we are pretty well linked, as all of us, I think, either from Potsdam or from Tallinn. We are pretty well linked in general around Baltic Sea region, but we are stepping ahead, away or to the other regions, right? Even overseas, we have an agreement with Startup NV, the public accelerator of Nevada, state of Nevada, based on 2 public universities there, and University of Nevada, Reno, and University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So this is a back office of Silicon Valley, Nevada state, cheaper, more diverse, and then of course, a lot of companies being established there. We sent 2 of our startups to the acceleration program in Reno, on Lake Tahoe. So just one of them stood a bit longer because that was the first wave of pandemic in the US. So, but it was very productive, right? So, and we are in Europe, we are among ourselves, I would say, right? But in being a European, not even Western or Eastern European, Central European, being a European, right, in Nevada is that you are in a minority, right? So you are a completely different world. So you're learning a different skills, right? So this is what we developed, and now we try to establish. We have some contacts with Israel as well, with Haifa Technological Park, and we try to establish some contacts in Singapore, which is already, I would say, the first step is done, but it's not simple because it's an extremely competitive market. But what we try to learn from them, of course, we are looking for more matured, more developed, more experienced partners there to learn from them, and to organize. In fact, when the mobility will be available again, probably, hopefully, this fall, to organize a trade mission there to because we have some money. We have interesting program called Pomeranian Export Broker, when we can support 85% of the costs of international participation in fairs when the company is registered here in Pomeranian region. So it's the only, regarding Polish regions, is the only public program supported by the Marshal Office of Pomerania to internationalize the regional companies. So this is what we do. And then I would say that the positive thing, the last one I should say, is that Gdańsk, for the first time in history, in close to 30 years, Gdańsk, together with Pomerania, 2 entities together for the first time, got the European Entrepreneurship Award 2020. At the end of 2019, we got this award together with Gothenburg in Sweden and our and partners from Pamplona in Spain. We got this entrepreneurship with this award, European Entrepreneurship Award. But unfortunately, some activities were smaller because of the pandemic. we did a lot during, online during this time, but we hope that we also will learn from our partners costs of this prize, European Entrepreneurship Award, which is awarded by the European Committee of the Regions, not European Commission, but Committee of the Regions. And this is a sign that, okay, we are doing something, right? We are not always never the masters, but we are doing something. It was nice that we were recognized that, okay, we try hard here. So that was positive. So overall, I would say the normal times are coming. So we will be the situation in Europe will be very competitive. But of course, I think similar to our friends from Tallinn, from Estonia, or in general from the three Baltic countries, we count also on this Eastern, workforce, which are very productive, very hardworking, our Ukrainian and Belarusian friends, and this is also a political help for them, right? To let them know market economy, let them know common European market, and let them prepare for next generations to change their own countries. So this is our mission also, and what I should and of course I think we discussed it with Till even in Helsinki once, that this is always the problem. Of course, the Potsdam case is very, I would say, attractive, but I think in general it's always the problem on business and academia cooperation. When on the conferences I tried to praise my colleagues from the Netherlands, I said, you are so great, in this, and they said, no, look at across the Atlantic, they are good. We try something in the Netherlands, so we are partly successful, but the real success is in the US, right? So this is true. I think this is true. We always try, but we should try, of course, to strengthen this business academia cooperation. So this is how I perceive. Thank you.
Okay, Pirko, what would you add? Do you see similar challenges in Estonia? Something maybe?
Oh, maybe very last sentence, friends. Very last sentence, because we have a match, the final of Europa League here in Gdańsk tonight. So feel invited over TV, right? Manchester United, Villarreal. So this is on our stadium, so-called Amber Stadium. So feel invited.
I think in general, this is the startup ecosystem and is kind of like a living organism, and you need to keep all the time thinking that how to keep this kind of high ambitions and good collaboration, because if you kind of start to feel too comfortable, or you are not kind of innovative or agile enough, then as mentioned, I agree that the competition in the world is quite strong, especially for talent. And if you are not able to provide or keep your own talent, or invite foreign talent to develop their great ideas here, then it's really, really hard to succeed. And that means I agree that this collaboration between academia and businesses is very important. And also, not only if we look on the business sector, there is also that I think many Estonian startups in fintech are so successful because the banking sector has been quite open on helping them. So this kind of traditional businesses, if was there mentioned maritime, I think transport sector in general will see huge changes. And the question is how this traditional business is collaborating with academia and new evolving businesses in bringing these new ideas into real life. And this is something where you need to make a strong movements and to keep this collaboration alive. And I agree that the government has to be very careful in how he kind of you cannot maybe, if you start to aggressively intervene or the private sector, the result can be opposite. So no, let's say in Estonia also we try to keep this how public sector supports capital market to invest into early startups, so as gently as possible, meaning that we don't have this kind of cover funds managed by the government. We just provide co-financing for private investment companies. We try to also pick or choose or agree with talent we have, and where we see that what could be the next sector or topic. No, is it the healthcare, health technologies? Is it biotechnology? To make this kind of smart choices with between academia, business sector, and also government, that which areas to focus. I think this is always a tricky part, and and hard choices has to be made, because you cannot be too general. You have to specialize, and that's why, you know, for example, Estonia, we have trying to support cybersecurity as one topic, because we have a history. Again, marking this that banking sector has been quite active in kind of integrating IT already in early 2000 or at late 90s into their business processes. This has kind of created a ground for now this kind of cybersecurity solutions, which are becoming a new companies. So this picking these topics, and this is always quite the issue. And I think this. I really agree also that there is kind of a general, it's not only, I think this kind of movement of creating ecosystems in Europe, this is not that Tallinn or Estonia should look only on their local area, but we need to collaborate with Baltics, with Scandinavia, with Eastern Europe, because the stronger the European ecosystem becomes, then it regenerates success. So the better it is for everyone. And I think Eastern European countries like Belarus or Ukraine or Romania, they all are a very good pool for a talent. But what we have also noticed, for example, some of the programs like from originating from Estonia, like Garage 48 or Lift 99, or there are various programs which have been establishing their activities, especially in Ukraine or in Georgia or in Romania, to kind of create more collaboration, because when you are looking on this kind of technology investments, you quite quickly discover that the world is small, and especially if you're focusing on certain topics, so the collaboration is very, very important. And I think there is more win from international collaboration than just kind of keeping it very, very closed and selfish. So yeah. Pointing out, I think most important is how to collaborate with traditional sectors and academia. I agree, how to support integrating Eastern European countries to help their talent to spread the startup knowledge, and creating this collaboration between ecosystems. It is very important, because maybe some idea doesn't fly in Estonia, but it is perfect for Gdańsk, for example. So let's move this company there and start to develop it there. So, or if we talk about, for example, about maritime, again, maybe there are this kind of topics where we need to collaborate, and if we don't have such partners, then of course the talent will leave Europe and going either to United States or somewhere Asia. So yes.
Okay, and Till, would you like to add and comment?
Yeah, just maybe a short comment on, as a university-based startup service, one of our biggest problems is to get researchers also interested in starting companies, because to see it as a basic career choice, and it's a valid career choice, because as coming from academia myself, it's usually not part of your curriculum until you get finished and start looking for a job. And nearly all researchers, at least PhD students, think about staying in academia and becoming researchers. So you focus all your power in this regard. And this is one of the things we try to aim for with our PLX workshop, because there people learn how to think about their ideas differently and what step they have to do if they maybe want to adapt their idea into a business model. But also they learn that it doesn't have to happen now or directly after their PhD, that it's a continuous process, and that the next idea maybe can come in 5 years, but then they know what to do and where to ask. And also, I agree with Tomasz and Pirko that focus is the key. You have to focus on what is your target audience, what startups are you looking for, and then try to provide them the best ecosystem you can give, and then cooperation comes into place. If you have a startup which is maybe not suited for your ecosystem, find a partner which can help them, because the alternative is usually not, they don't think about it like I'm losing a startup here. The alternative is usually that it's not established at all, and we all are winning if it's established at this partner's location, becomes successful there. And this is why we aim for the internationalization and the connection of different ecosystems. So if we have startups, we think, great idea, but maybe not here, but we have a partner which is looking for the startups, like Pirko mentioned, maybe for fintech startups, or Tomasz mentioned for maritime startups. And these partners can provide them help, contacts, and then you send them there, they establish their startup there. The whole European Union and market is winning. It's like going to the Silicon Valley to look for risk funding, because the money is there, and the alternative would be that you don't establish a startup at all or don't get any money to start it. It's okay to maybe leave the home country, but then usually people come back afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? Does somebody want to comment? Or I see one question on the chat from Ms. Sylvia Skwara. Do you cooperate with the EIT? There will be an interesting event soon. So this is also a comment.
Hello from Brussels. Actually, for me, EIT is like a great tool also for the startups, and it enables the Triple Helix cooperation. It's the part of Horizon Europe program, the previous Horizon 2020. And I guess this event, it's more or less 10th of June, where there will be a presentation of the new strategy, how to be involved on different levels, the ones you've been talking about, I mean, researchers, startups, and education part as well. So I just wanted to promote this event among our participants as well. But from the perspective of Pomorskie, we've been able to interest the Medical University of Gdańsk with this special regional scheme for the Central and Eastern Europe countries within EIT program. And afterwards, they became very active partner. I mean, the Medical University plus Polpharma, which is a very good medical company. So it was quite easier with European money and their expertise how to build this regional, but also international cooperation, on the Triple Helix, and not only. So we are talking about Quadruple Helix, yes. So pay attention to this event. It might just interest you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sylvia, for this good comment and this hint. The possibility also for our experts to be more active in if they have not been. For now, Are there any other questions? I would like maybe then, because we have still some minutes, refer to what Till has mentioned about this attitude of scientists. It's, I think, also a like huge tendency in Poland. I also have this background from the university, from economics, but as you mentioned, while doing my PhD, I've never thought of opening my own company. I rather wanted to stay at university, and for, I think, all of us on my studies, research was research, and we haven't thought in commercialization, our ideas, for example. So I think it's also connected with the perceiving science in general, but this is also changing. So science was something like establishing concept which was for free, open, and so on. And many of the scientists didn't have this idea of earn of the ideas. Maybe it was more in technical universities, but in humanistics, it's rather even negatively perceived if you earn on your research. And I think it's changing a lot. Also, the role and of universities are changing. It's also connected with the funding, but we have more and more funding coming from grants and not from public institutions or from national governments. So maybe the way of financing research when you have to get it from the market to do it actually and to work on your ideas and on your research will also change this academic, attitude towards commercialization. But how actually change this mentality of scientists? You said that you also have some programs. Is it about, I don't know, mentoring or, programs also connected to educating and how to start the company in a practical manner? Or it's more, like set of classes for like, I don't know, PhD students or postdoc students at university? And how in other regions are you doing with this and dealing with this mentality of researcher of not really focusing on commercialization and entering market and opening company, but rather staying with their research in universities and getting usually public grants or national funding for working on their ideas and research projects? So maybe Till first, if you can start.
Yeah. And the first step is usually to raise awareness for that topic, because like I said, usually professors don't think about this, so they don't teach their students about it or talk to their students about it. So we try to reach the PhD students through workshops, which will give them different skills they can also use outside of business, but might also help them in academia, like pitching sessions, so how to present yourself better. And then we talk to them about how different fields can be applied, also to think about the idea in a different way, and that academia and commercialization of your idea are not two things which are contradictory to each other. You can do them parallel. You can publish, but you can also protect your IP. And it doesn't take not necessarily much longer or stops your publication process, because this is what everybody is thinking about in academia and science. Publications, especially if you want to get your PhD. And that's a lot of things different. And then also to change the mindset, because this, I think, is the biggest problem we face between scientists and commercialization, is that scientists are trained to think a specific way. And like we call it also, they're focused on details. And if you try to develop a business model, you have to let this go, especially if you want to present your idea in front of others. If you see a scientist, they can talk hours and hours about their research, their idea, and they can talk about details, but they can't present a business idea. And also they feel, if you try to train them how to do this, they feel like selling out or like lying. A lot of researchers describe it as lying if they try to develop a business idea, because they think, oh, but there's this condition and this condition, especially in natural science, where everything is not as easy as it sounds on the first thing. But we try to teach them to be confident in that it is a solution maybe for a problem, but it needs further work. But the idea, the thinking about commercialization starts now. Now you have to think about it. Is this a potential commercialization? Which steps do I have to take to commercialize it? And then you can start looking in what funding opportunities may arise, where you're going. And then also, because commercialization is always also a personal journey, not only a journey of the business idea, but also a personal journey. And this is where we try to catch them, to help them to develop themselves into this entrepreneurial mindset and to become future entrepreneurs.
Pirko, would you like to add something?
Yes. No, I think I totally agree with Jill. There is one thing I think why, as I mentioned, we try to mix or even create environments where you have private companies who want to collaborate with university and university scientific laboratories and also students and classrooms mixed, is that it is very hard. You need to kind of start to already make this kind of mixing or creating this collaboration because it's very hard to make from a professor an entrepreneur, and it is very rare case when you have because there are different skills. But if you get a good businessman who gets very well along with a professor and they get a common goal and they can create a team, then this is, I think, very, very good match. So the professor can remain a chief technology officer in a company or the chief on technology, and there is someone who is responsible for a business. So this kind of team creation is important. What we have done is there are various hackathons which kind of during the weekend you can play with ideas and you can attract business people or young business students to come and work on some technological solutions, how to create or commercialize them. The second thing, I think, what is important is that, and what we also kind of try to learn as a lesson from Israel, is that universities need to have also a pipeline that, let's say, if there is a talented scientist with a very good potential of commercialization of certain IP, then you need to make this journey for him as pleasant as possible. So that, for example, if you have this kind of entrepreneurially thinking patent office in the university who kind of helps to make these first steps to evaluate the potential of commercialization. This is, I think, these kind of tools which can help. And as I mentioned, both universities now kind of trying to make this kind of early investments also into the companies. I think it educates also universities not to demand only from professors or PhDs to make publications, but also they kind of create a culture of understanding that there could be alternative journey of going and collaborating and making this IP commercialized. But yeah, coming back to the beginning, I think it is very important to understand that it is better to couple professors with entrepreneurs, not to try to make from professors entrepreneurs. It is very rare case when a good professor is also a very good businessman. Thank you.
Thank you. Tomasz, would you like to?
I fully agree with colleagues what people said that you know, there is always a place for academic in the company, right? So not a CEO by definition, but it may be different, man, chief, you know, innovation officer, or there's even abbreviations on that, right? Already. But then the other thing, which is not so positive, but the other thing is, of course, that a higher education institution, to the lesser and lesser extent over time, is not a safe harbor, right? It's not a secured place. So you have to be creative as an academic, right? You have to always be open for finding a place, not in academic world, but also in practical, you know, solutions, implementations. So this is important. the other thing would be also in US or Canadian or some other higher education institutions, they have such a position like entrepreneur in residence or entrepreneur in residence. It started, I found it somewhere in Europe only in business schools, right? But in US they have it in faculty of engineering, faculty of biology, faculty of medicine, everywhere, right? Because everywhere you need practical entrepreneurs, and they can, students can come or young researchers can come to them in the campus, right? Already in the building, right? So not looking too much for him or her, but his or her they are present, constantly on the in the faculty. So this is, but they're entrepreneurs. So this is a very good idea because they treat every faculty as, or even faculty of arts, because someone has to pay for this performance. So even in the faculty of arts, which was my question in one of the conferences some time ago, how you can do it? No, because even for art, you need some money, right? So you need even there this entrepreneurial spirit. So they created this position in entrepreneur in residence that doesn't need to be the PhD or just maybe a bachelor with a long practice in a practical business sphere. Of course, in the Faculty of Arts sphere related to theater, art performing, in medicine, in practical implementation of medical devices, for example, right? So this is some way of addressing this problem, because then the academic side would say, oh, it's very long time to very complicated to look for such person. No, they are there. So you cannot say that you can not find them, right? So it's interesting, and they told us that this is a practical development, that they were looking for solutions, how to make this, very academic people closer to the business. So just take this business closer to them, and then they may consult on the daily basis with them. So, and they may use their contacts, right, to real business. So there are solutions. There are solutions on the map. So you just need to be willing. But I would say that tenure system, whether we like it or not, it's one of the on a kind of solutions, because you have to improve yourself constantly. You have to be close to the market because you have to sell your knowledge somehow, right? So this is also one of the not to become obsolete, simply speaking, right? So these are the solutions. I would be pretty optimistic in general in this respect.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for this vivid discussion. I think you've mentioned a lot of very important and inspiring points that can be elaborated and also taken to a higher level, and also maybe initiate some other cooperation formats, also cross-border. So Tomasz, Pirko, Till, it was really a pleasure having you today with us. Thank you for all the participants of this panel who stayed with us till the end. As I mentioned, the webinar was recorded and it will be available online after our event, because we knew that some people very much wanted to attend, but due to this really millions of online meetings that we face today, it was not possible for all of them to be present, but it will be it will be just available later, so you can come back to this. So thank you once again. It was a pleasure discussing with you, and I hope we stay in touch. If you allow, we will publish your presentation. So Pirko, please send us also your presentation, and we will also publish and make them available online. So thank you very much for today. Have a good afternoon. And for those before lunch, also bon appetit, because it's lunchtime in Poland at least. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.